one spared life might be worth more to the other side than all the blood that stained Red's hand. A fugitive becomes a queen, or a scientist, or worse, a podcaster.
Oh, not a podcaster.
The most
Too
dangerous.
many podcasters. Welcome back to Science Fiction Book Club, a podcast for bookworms and stargazers. In every episode, we dive into the pages of our favorite science fiction novels to break down the big ideas, ask the nerdy questions, and maybe learn a little bit about ourselves along the way. I'm Opsa, and joining me as always, unfortunately a podcaster, Abu.
That's right. Oh boy, Opsa, I am so excited to get into a brand new book. I feel like we've been in the world of Ted Chiang, the wonderful world of Ted Chiang,
The wonderful world, indeed.
For many, many months. But here we are, finally starting a new journey in a new book. And I'm so glad that we put this book on the schedule for this season because
Agreed.
I'm loving it. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
But of course, before we dive into today's reading, a quick spoiler warning. Folks, as the title states, today, we will be discussing This Is How You Lose the Time War, chapters 1 through 12. That is roughly the first half of the book. So if you have not read chapters 1 through 12, stop, go do that, and then come back and listen. If you've read, you're good to go.
As always, we encourage you to read along with us and share your thoughts, so please do email us at sci-fi bookclubpod@loreparty.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/sci-fi bookclubpod. We post free reading guides and discussion questions, bonus clips, bloopers, all that good stuff on that Patreon. It's also where you can find our Discord, where we like to keep these nerdy sci-fi discussions going with fellow readers just like you.
That's right. And all of those links are in the show notes, so check them out after you're done listening. All right, so housekeeping out of the way. You all know the game plan for these book club episodes. We'll begin by summarizing the assigned reading. Then we'll share our first impressions of the book so far, now that we're halfway through. And finally, we will wrap up the episode by diving deep in our sci-fi analysis and breaking down some big themes and ideas that resonated with us. So, Opsa, before we get into that, let's take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, folks, to talk about This Is How You Lose the Time War.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best-fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Welcome back, listeners. Let's begin, as always, with a brief summary of the first 12 chapters of This Is How You Lose a Time War. Beginning with the first 4 chapters, we are introduced to the central premise of the story. 2 agents from warring factions begin leaving secret letters for each other as they thwart the other's operations in this grand multiverse. On the one side, we have Red, an agent of the technological post-humanist collective called the Agency. Her opponent is Blue, an agent of the biological hive mind known as the Garden. We start to get a sense from these early correspondences that Red and Blue are both top of their game, top of the class agents, and their initial attraction to each other is based on their competitive nature. Blue writes in one letter, quote, "You invigorated your Shifts War effort, and in so doing, invigorated me."
Ooh.
Already some
spicy already.
Yeah, that's right. We also learned how the 2 factions have different philosophical approaches to the Time War. Blue writes, quote, "Your agency's flash and dash, up thread and down, Garden's patient planting and pruning of strands, burrowing into time's braid." End quote.
I really liked that part. These little hints as to how these 2 opposing forces operate. in this multiversal war across all time. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing our summary, in our next batch of chapters, chapters 5 through 8, things start to evolve. What started out as competition between two top-of-their-class agents quickly begins to delve into dangerous personal territory as the letters become more playful and inquisitive and, yes, flirtatious.
That's right.
The letters also get longer as each agent begins sharing more about themselves and starting to even explore what's going on here, man. Like, what are we doing? What are you and I right now?
Yeah.
Are we putting a label on it?
That's right.
Quote, "It occurs to me to dwell on what a microcosm we are of the war as a whole, you and I. The physics of us, an action and an equal and opposite reaction. My viney, hivey elf world, as you say, versus your techie mechy dystopia." End quote. Now, their growing feelings for each other also begin to bleed into their operations, into their work as agents. Red, for example, clearly foregoes the opportunity to kill Blue during a daring mission down thread where Blue is attempting to destroy some sort of holy Macintosh god.
That's right. Praise be.
Praise be to Ziri, I guess. This was certainly a mission where Blue was very deep in enemy territory, very deep in enemy timelines. Red could have eliminated Blue. Red is a good enough agent to do that. And if you read in between the lines of the letters, it's very clear that Red did it on purpose.
That's right.
Now, eventually, their correspondences, these letters, stop being about the missions altogether, really. And, in fact, become very personal, and they start to communicate even outside of missions where they are fighting each other.
Right.
For example, I really liked Red's hidden letter to Blue in Blue's favorite tea shop in a timeline called London Next. So now we're beyond the scope of just actually talking to each other on missions. It's getting personal.
That's right. Moving on to the next batch of chapters, the final set, 9 to 12 here. The tension and the passion ramps up to, in fact, dangerous levels.
Mm-hmm.
Both Red and Blue have to be extra careful around their superiors so as to not draw suspicions.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're doing something that isn't exactly sanctioned by either the agency or Garden, but they're impossibly drawn to each other.
Yes.
At this point, their letters become straight up romantic, and they start using these cutesy nicknames and sharing deeply personal details about their pasts. They've connected deeply over the course of the many letters that they've sent at this point over what seems like thousands of years and many, many different universes.
Yes.
This all culminates in Bru's pretty dramatic betrayal of her faction on a mission where she saves a 13-year-old Red's life. Adult Red responds with total vulnerability and trust by leaving a thank you letter for Blue that doesn't destroy itself.
Oh my gosh.
Evidence. This is really quite a risky move.
Risky move. I mean, Red even writes in that letter and says, "I am leaving this letter in your hands. If you wanted to utterly destroy me, all you'd have to do is leave it somewhere where my commandant could find it."
That's right.
And I would be eliminated, right? Because I would be
That's right.
a compromised agent at that point. So I'm leaving literally my future in your hands with this letter.
That's right. And it's the case that they even have to be careful about their own thoughts. And I think this is Red specifically because this is really quite incriminating evidence.
It is, yeah.
We end the first half of the book on a tightrope as Red frantically works overtime and Blue hunkers down on a long mission, both attempting to keep their leadership off the scent. And then we have the first half of this book.
What do you think so far, Obsa? How are you feeling about the Time War?
This is honestly such a ride, like such a fascinating book. And it's really not very long, but it's quite dense, you know, and so unlike anything else in the genre. And I am just absolutely here for it. This is actually my second time reading through it. And I will say, as much as I enjoyed it the first time, I truthfully never managed to complete it, and I really tried.
Yeah.
And I don't entirely know why, but I think part of it is that it is just so much more poetic and lyrical than it is plot driven or even character driven. Definitely, the two characters we have here are the core of the story, but it really feels secondary to the prose. You know, the world building, fascinating, gnarly. These two characters, extremely rich in their inner worlds, and the communications between them, absolutely are what grounding this novel in such intriguing and compelling writing. But I think it reads almost more like a collection of poetry than a novel.
Yes.
You know, like I don't know if you felt similarly, but
absolutely.
I mean, that's really what I felt. And I think as a consequence, it's less of a, quick page turner, so much as something you really want to like take your time with. And I found myself going back and rereading passages and just realizing how really deeply and intricately layered they were. And there's just so many rich metaphors and allusions that honestly, on a first reading, kind of flew over my head. But it's more A24 than it's Blockbuster, I think is how I would put it.
That's a good way to put it. I couldn't agree more. I think the novella nature of the book, right? Oh, this is like a small, short, easy read.
Right.
Might make someone think this is like a beach read where you really only have to use like half your brain and it'll just be kind of like a fun ride, which this is absolutely not. This is a dense tome packaged in a very small novella-sized book.
Yeah. I also enjoyed, of course, this rivalry between Red and Blue, which, it's like those old spy versus spy comics, like you don't exactly have a side that you're rooting more for per se, but there are these rivals that are also star-crossed lovers, and it's this intricate dance that is more than just like a game of chess, but they've clearly found their perfect partner. And I think altogether, I find myself absolutely loving this story. And I'm hearing the same notes from you, I think.
Are you picking up on that vibe, maybe?
I think we're both enjoying this, but I'm curious if there's anything else that you found yourself captivated by in this story.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I too am reading this book for the second time. I read it to completion, actually, not to shame you, but to completion the first time. And I don't remember it having much of an effect on me, honestly. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I also didn't like it so much that I remember a ton of it. So honestly, this read of it for the podcast feels like a fresh read because a lot of this it feels like I'm seeing for the first time. And certainly, to your point, the density of the novel begs multiple reads. Right. Because I guarantee you there are metaphors and allusions and even just wordplay in between letters that you just will not get the first time you read it.
Yeah.
So I'm loving it. I'm having a blast. I'm really invested in Red and Blue and their journey. And I will say, I think something that might turn folks off about this book is the very disconnected sort of quick jumping between universes, chapter to chapter.
Yeah.
But for me, that's almost a positive. I'm enjoying these brief little glimpses into just crazy alternate timelines, right?
For sure.
The Atlantis stuff in particular, I really enjoyed. The Macintosh joke I found very, very funny. And it's just interesting to be jumping between these timelines and sort of name dropping, right? Socrates, Genghis Khan,
right.
All of these folks that Red and Blue literally have interacted with at some point.
That's right.
Along the timeline.
Yeah.
I'm also really enjoying just the writing on a technical level. There's some really beautiful passages. I did so much highlighting in my copy of the book. I wanted to share one here, for example, quote, "Adventure works in any strand. It calls to those who care more for living than for their lives," end quote. Wow. And that really struck me. I got goosebumps reading that. Totally. And there's so many lines throughout this book, throughout this very short book, like this. That really resonated with me. So I loved that. I'll end with a small critique. Here's my one tiny critique. Really, I had to I'm reaching here. But I think the pacing of the romance between Red and Blue wasn't a home run for me. I think it begins very, very slow burn at the beginning. In the first opening chapters. They're just kind of talking about their operations and teasing each other, and it's mostly competitive, but they keep a professional distance. They're still wary of each other. And then, to me, it felt like almost suddenly we've switched over to cute nicknames for each other, and what to me reads as like dangerously open flirtiness.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like there was a middle ground where we're testing the waters of flirtiness. Maybe we like test a nickname.
Right.
Maybe there was one letter of that. I just felt like we kind of like went 0 to 60 very quickly.
Yeah.
In the romance. I would have maybe appreciated a smoother ramp up, but I will say, I think sort of the counterpoint to my critique here is that time is utterly subjective and meaningless to Red and Blue, right? Like we actually have no sense of how long how long this communication goes back and forth. Is it like a year of their life that they're sending letters? Is it 10 years of their lives? What are even their lives anymore? Because they seem to just sort of like, Red seems to just like jack in and out of the Matrix. And so she doesn't really seem to have a body. She's just like a consciousness. And so is she like immortal? Unclear. Time is like utterly meaningless in this book. And so for me to hilariously be like, whoa, the pacing is wrong, I don't think the timeline works, is like almost a silly critique.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting one though. I mean, I agree. It does go from 0 to 60 and really kind of immediately. But though I will say I really appreciated in the very first letter that was sent between them, there was a line that I kind of read a couple times that I really enjoyed, because I think it's true of really any communication between two people that actually kind of penetrates and makes it through. And it's, I believe, Blue speaking to Red. Let me just find it here. And she says about her words and the letter that she's written. In order to recall them, you must seek my presence in your thoughts, tangled among them like sunlight in water. In order to report my words to your superiors, you must admit yourself already infiltrated, another casualty of this most unfortunate day. And it's just, end quote. It's just interesting to think about that to read something, to communicate something, is to let, those words actually become a part of you. And of course, in the case of this letter, it was burn before reading, which was interesting.
Amazing.
But there is something to be said for that, that when we speak to one another, you have to let those words kind of enter into you in some kind of meaningful way.
Right. They become a part of you in some way. Aren't the most meaningful stories that mean the most to us, Obsa, like intrinsically part of who we are as people?
Yeah.
That's what Red and Blue are doing here as well. They're sending letters back and forth and allowing the other's words to infiltrate their very beings.
That's right.
It's beautiful and romantic.
Agreed.
All right. So that's the chapter summaries and our thoughts on the book so far, the first half of the book. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into our meta. We're going to learn about the authors and the publication of this book. And then we do have a takeaway to talk about. So all of that coming up in a minute, folks. We'll see you soon.
All right, welcome back, listeners. Let's jump straight into our meta and explore a little bit more about this book and the authors that put it together. That's authors.
That's right.
We're all aware. That's right.
And there's a very good reason for that, which I'll share in a second.
Yeah.
I really like when we start a new book, we usually dig into the careers of the author and the history of the book's publication, just because it gives us extra context in these discussions. So let's do the same for This Is How You Lose a Time War. And let's start by talking about the book's publication and critical reception. So This Is How You Lose the Time War was co-written by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone in a pretty unique way. Gladstone wrote all the segments for Red, and El-Mohtar wrote all the segments for Blue.
That's right.
How cool is that? And they've even said in interviews that while they had a general outline for the story, they would send their chapters to each other blind so that the other person could capture their genuine surprise and reaction to receiving a quote unquote letter.
That's right.
And so much of the writing is reactive. The Red chapters are in reaction to Mohtar sending Gladstone the previous Blue chapter, and then vice versa. So it felt like a really unique way to write this kind of book, and for each of them to sort of take on and embody one of the agents.
I think I also read that, their friendship had a long period where they were just sending letters to one another, much like the two characters in the story, and I think partially inspired it.
I'm sure it did. Now, the novella was published in 2019 to critical acclaim, and it would go on to win numerous awards, including the 2020 Nebula and Hugo for Best Novella.
That's right.
So a highly regarded book for sure.
Here's a hilarious anecdote. In 2023, the book saw a resurgence in popularity and rose to the Amazon bestseller list thanks to a viral tweet by, I have to say it, Bigolas, Dickolas, Wolfwood. That's his official name.
That's right.
The tweet is classically weird internet speak, and I think Red and Blue would appreciate the intricacies.
Oh, yeah.
Quote, read this. Do not look up anything about it. Just read it. It's only like 200 pages you can download it on Audible. It's only like 4 hours. Do it right now. I'm very extremely serious. Which
incredible.
Is just gold. And I think El-Mohtar reacted like most of us would have. Quote, I do not understand what is happening, but I am incomprehensibly grateful to Bigolas, Dickolas.
Oh my God, the internet is so weird.
Amazing.
That's incredible. So yeah, the book saw a little bit of a resurgence in 2023 and shot up the charts thanks to a tweet. I think we all owe a big thank you to Bigolas, Dickolas, Wolfwood. I love that. Okay, anyway, moving on from the Dickolas of it all, let's talk about the authors. So a little bit about the authors. Amal El-Mohtar was born in Ottawa, Ontario in 1984 to parents of Lebanese descent. She is the writer of numerous poems, short stories, essays, and reviews. She's a critic herself. In fact, she reviews fantasy and sci-fi books for the New York Times Book Review and has done so since 2018.
That's right.
Now, here's a little fun fact about El-Mohtar. She was already a Hugo and Nebula Award winner before Time War came out and won those awards. Her 2016 fantasy short story, Seasons of Glass and Iron, won both of those awards.
Amazing.
Now, moving on to Gladstone. Max Gladstone was born in 1984. He went to Yale to study Chinese. He then worked in China for a couple of years, taking on jobs like teacher, translator, and eventually Tor Books would publish his first novel called 3 Parts Dead in 2012. And he's written numerous novels and short stories ever since. Now, a little fun fact about Gladstone. Gladstone was a finalist for the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer in 2012. So our guy really came out the gate swinging with that debut novel.
That's right. Both of these writers super accomplished and clearly incredibly talented.
Incredibly talented. And it makes a lot of sense to me that both of them have been nominated for and have won numerous prestigious awards. It completely makes sense. And I'm grateful that because of them, we have This Is How You Lose the Time War.
I would love to dive into our takeaway now and explore some of the interesting themes that we explore in this novella.
Yes, I can't wait. Take us through it, Obsa.
For this week, I really wanted to dig into the paradox of connection and loneliness that Red and Blue are both clearly grappling with, because I think it hits on something super contemporary. The kind of strange thing at the heart of this novel are, we've got these two agents from rival factions, the one technological, the other organic, and each seems to belong to a civilization that has theoretically solved human isolation. But despite this, both agents recognize their deep and somewhat counterintuitive loneliness.
Yeah.
On the one hand, the agency offers networked consciousness. Red describes it, quote, We're not so isolated as you are, not so locked in our own heads. We think in public. Our notions inform one another, correct, expand, reform. Garden offers organic unity. Blue has been birds and branches, bees and wolves, fish and plankton and hummus, and all of these have been me. End quote. To some extent, these feel quasi-utopian. The loneliness of the separate self has been transcended.
Right.
It's the ultimate form of connection. It's the post-singularity future that the technologists of today suggest is our end state. However, all that said, neither agent has ever had a friend. Blue admits she's only observed friendship, quote, as one observes high holy days, breathtakingly short, compressed always, and gone as soon as they come, end quote. The collective that makes her one with all beings has never made her belong to anyone in particular.
Wow, yeah, so well put.
I think another really telling moment is Red's story about being 13. She'd read about Socrates standing motionless all night in solitary thought until revelation struck. So she left her pod, found a barren hilltop on a distant world, and tried to think alone. But she couldn't. The networked consciousness followed. Quote, I realized that as my ears grew used to the silence, I could still hear the others. And the collective responds with concern. Quote, are you okay? Do you need help? You can talk to us. It's not malevolent. The collective, the agency, isn't necessarily this evil, lurking force.
Yeah.
They're demonstrating real care here.
Right.
But Red experiences it as a sort of suffocation. And she ends up commanding them to stop watching because individuals are still entitled to their privacy, as we learn. And only then, in darkness, does she discover what she actually lacked. Quote, and I felt lonely. I missed those voices. I missed the minds behind them. I wanted to be seen. End quote. And that's kind of the paradox, right?
Yeah.
Red was never unobserved. The agency watched constantly. But she had to refuse that watching to discover it wasn't exactly what she needed. She was watched, but not witnessed.
Ooh.
She wasn't truly seen in a way that relieved the loneliness.
Yeah.
And I think that should sound familiar, right?
Yes.
We live in the most connected era in human
That's right.
history.
That's right.
Social media knows what we click, what we linger on, where our mouse is on the screen, what makes us buy what we buy. We've never been more thoroughly observed. But we've also never been lonelier. I think Red's discovery is that observation and recognition are fundamentally different. Observation treats you as an instance of a category, an anonymized one of many, indistinct and generic. Recognition is different. It requires a specific other who has chosen to attend to you particularly, who could be surprised by you, who finds you irreplaceable rather than interchangeable. And I think Blue captures what recognition requires when she describes her irreducible self as hunger, desire, longing, this longing to possess, to become, to break like a wave on a rock and reform. And she laments, it is very difficult to befriend where you wish to consume, to find those who, when they end a letter with yours, mean it in any substantive way.
Ooh.
End quote.
Yeah.
No one has ever meant yours to Blue substantively until Red.
Right. Because by this point, Red is closing out her letters by signing it as yours, Red.
Yes, that's right.
And this is Blue's sort of subtle way of asking, do you really mean that?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Are you mine? And, you know, the subtext there is, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Is this as romantic as I think it is? Are you as invested in this as I am, perhaps?
do you want to be my girlfriend? Check yes or no.
Check yes or no.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's Blue showing some vulnerability here too, and of course, Red meets that moment later on in offering evidence that doesn't destroy itself.
Right, which is a huge show of trust.
Absolutely.
And I think really that's the point where things shift for the two of them. There's no more question of like, do you eat, Red? Are you hungry? Do you ever feel that hunger? Have you ever been lonely? Like, they're probing each other to try and get a sense of, yes, they want to learn about the other, but what they're really asking is, what are we?
Yeah.
And do you feel the same way I do? They're asking about each other's feelings for each other. And once Blue saves young Red's life and adult Red gives that letter to Blue, both of them sort of seal the deal. They're like, yes, I'm checking the box for yes, girlfriend.
That's right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's particularly fascinating because they can't find that connection within their own faction.
Right.
Their correspondence with each other is different. It exists outside of both of their systems.
Yes.
It's not sanctioned, obviously, and it could get them killed. There's a moment where Blue notes that, quote, Garden dislikes words, and Red disables her recording implants to keep their letters private.
Yeah.
Just all to say their connection is really not approved. It's not optimized. It's not safe. And that's why it works.
Yeah.
It requires vulnerability. A true connection requires putting trust in someone. And that is not without its risks. You're offering yourself to the possibility of being hurt, and in their case, to being killed. And crucially, I think what's interesting is it doesn't resolve their ideological differences. Blue maintains her disgust at the agency. You said it earlier, quote, the thought of your disembodied network repulses me. But in the same breath, the very next sentence, she also recognizes herself in Red. They find connection despite their disagreement.
Yeah.
They remain enemies, but they also remain yours.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry. You are dropping poetry in this takeaway. My goodness.
I mean, this book. If it doesn't compel you to.
Yeah.
Just
that's
bars
so well
throughout,
said, Opsa. Yeah.
It's also just interesting kind of taking a step back and reflecting on agency and Garden as a whole. Neither are exactly failures. They have, in a sense, solved this isolation question somewhat.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely clear which of them is superior to the other, because they both do things that cause the downfalls of whole civilizations, the deaths of, individual species, and alter the timelines in ways that feel like it kind of removes free will and agency from the affected beings.
I have questions.
Lots of questions here. But it's interesting because ultimately, when we kind of zoom in onto these two particular figures, what we see is that for both of them, it's not that they have an absence of connection, but that's not exactly what loneliness is. You can still be lonely even amidst many people and many connections. And it's not the most social person that feels necessarily the most seen or recognized. It's, I think, loneliness really, and we see it here, it's the absence again of having somebody to witness you, the actual personhood that makes you, that uniquely defines you. And that also opens you up to vulnerability that's valuable and worth it. We see Red and Blue writing these beautiful, stirring, moving letters that are encoded in tree rings and in volcanic lava. And these messages take centuries to compose. Granted, of course, time is a very strange concept in this book.
Yeah, truly.
But each message shared between them costs something, and it can't be recovered. There's a real price to each exchange between them. And I think that's kind of the point here, right? True recognition, true connection of a meaningful sort requires investment that can't be scaled or optimized. It requires one person choosing you because you're worth it. It's not exactly the revelation I expected going into this book, but I find it timely, and I'm honestly really grateful to have had the moment to kind of explore this this concept through what is really a really poetic framing of it. And I think that's the takeaway that I wanted to kind of expand on with you.
As usual, Opsa, you have taken my breath away with a really beautiful takeaway, exploring what I think is one of, if not the central idea and theme of the story. This contrast between loneliness and what it means to find true connection. And it could not be more relevant to today, right?
Yeah.
Every social media platform, every YouTuber, every brand is all about creating community this, community that, finding our people. You're our family. You're a part of us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you're a part of this group. And to some extent, the cynic might look at that and go, wow, late stage capitalism really coming for us in a way where we are commodities. Eventually, you follow that thread all the way down, and it leads to the people, the human beings, being the product.
Right.
And it's clear that Agency and Garden have both hilariously found their own means of what one might dub as like ultimate connection, right?
Right. Right.
Constant connection. You're never
Right.
alone. You're always witnessed. But I think you've touched on such a nuanced and beautiful point that connection and community is not the same as truly being seen.
Yeah.
And I think there's an interesting idea here that true depth with another person or even with another group comes out of understanding, comes out of being challenged, comes out of genuine curiosity. Blue and Red want to learn about each other's pasts, each other's cultures.
Right.
Tell me about your viney ivy hive world, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, they are so different that they inevitably challenge each other as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's nuance there, right? Like connection is like slow, methodical, much like letter writing.
Right.
And it's not the instantaneous connection of your technological telepathy or the instantaneous connection of your biological garden experience of being everyone and knowing the experiences of everyone or whatever.
Right.
So I think this book has a lot to say about love, connection, but even like non-romantic love, right? Obviously,
totally.
Red and Blue are falling in love romantically, but I think this book has so much to say just about human connection, one-on-one human connection and connection with our communities. The Agency and the Garden are so vague, these like amorphous, unknown blobs in the background of the story, because we're reading letters from Red and Blue. To Red and Blue, they don't feel any sort of strong connection to these communities, to their factions, right? What they feel a strong connection to is each other. So there's so many layers in the story, and I'm glad you really got to the heart of it here in this takeaway.
What a fascinating book. I mean, this
what a
is
great book. I can't wait to see what the second half is like.
We're only halfway through. Fascinating.
Yeah. I hope there's more seal puns in the second half.
The rest of the book is just animal puns.
All right, folks. That's our conversation today on the first half of This Is How You Lose the Time War, chapters 1 through 12. Here's your homework. I hope it's pretty obvious. For the next episode of Science Fiction Book Club, read the rest of the book. Read the second half of the book. Make sure you have completed it cover to cover. We'll be back in the next episode to talk about the second half of the book and, of course, the book in its entirety. And we'll give it a rating. If you can even give a book like this a rating, you know, what is time? What are ratings?
Yeah.
What is human connection? Who even knows? And of course, if you're curious about reading deadlines, what chapters we're reading when, even what we're reading after we finish this book, check out the link in the show notes below. We always have the entire season's reading schedule linked in every episode so that you can stay on top of your readings and so you can know what books to put on hold at the library to read along with us.
Well, friends, podcast listeners understand that young men are often fools, so don't be a fool and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lore Party Podcast Network on loreparty.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, we're all deviant in our different ways. What a quote to end on.
It's true!
Facts.